Okay, so perfectionism. Okay, so today I just want to have the conversation about perfectionism and how it can often hold people back in business, keeps you from moving forward, shows up like procrastination, all kinds of different things can get in the way. It slows you down when you're stuck in perfectionism. I don't know about you, but if you're watching this this live today, it might be because you have some perfectionist tendencies as well. So we're going to talk about that today. So those of you who don't know me and you're just joining in, I want to say hi, welcome to the Hive Society. My name is Kimberly Borgens, and I'm the lead coach, the head motivator, the cheerleader, and the person that will hold you accountable to your dreams and your goals. So what I do is I work with my clients and I help them create the systems, the structures, the goals, the vision that they want for their business, and I help them create the space to make that happen. I'm not an everyday coach. I'm a coach who listens one-on-one to each of my clients, and I fine tune it just for each and every client. So that's one thing that makes me different. I don't do a whole lot of group coaching. Most of it is working one-on-one so that I can really support each person in moving forward. So if you're joining, hopefully you'll go back and watch some of my previous videos. I do Facebook Lives every single Friday. And so I hope that you're getting some value out of it. So today I wanted to talk about perfectionism. And, if you get something out of this today and you're going, ouch, Kimberly, that one got me, or, oh, that's a great way of looking at it and looking at it from a different perspective. If you get an aha or something like that, share with me down below in the comments down below, because that would be really helpful for feedback for me so that I can make sure that I'm on the right track, sharing the right information that would really be of service to you. Because really that is my goal, is to make sure that I'm not just talking for the sake of talking, but I'm actually helping somebody move forward. So hopefully there's something today that will help you move forward. All right. So perfectionism. A lot of people will say perfectionism is kind of like, all or nothing thinking. Either it's all one way or forget it, right? We're not going to do anything else. I can't see moving forward if it's not perfect, right? And, today what I'd like to do is really kind of dispel that. Right. Have you ever noticed yourself or someone else that you work with that, they feel like they've accomplished things, but it's never quite good enough? Well, they might be coming from some perfectionist tendencies, right? So I wanted to give you some tools around that and to really support you in seeing how, when you're stuck in perfectionist tendencies, when perfectionism is getting in the way, how it's going to trip you up, hold you back, stop you from making the money that you want to make in your business, stop you from having the kind of relationships with people that you want to have. And what I really want to do is help you move forward from that so that you can create the results that you're looking for. So let's talk about perfectionism just in general, right? Perfectionism is a tendency to basically be displeased, upset, frustrated when anything that is not perfect or doesn't meet extremely high standards, right? And I want you to see where my emphasis was: extremely high standards. We all should have good high standards, right? Good high standards of how we do customer service, how we present our products and services, how we, put our presence out for our business, how we have our reputation. There should be a high standard for that. But when you have extreme high standards that are unreachable, unattainable, unrealistic, then you may have some serious perfectionist tendencies, okay? A perfectionist is a person who is not content with anything unless it's perfect or nearly perfect. So there's perfectionism, there's a perfectionist, right? And that perfectionists have a belief that perfection can actually be obtained, right? And they believe that the work and the output of everything they do has to be perfect or it's unacceptable. Okay, so if you know anybody that sounds like that, including yourself, maybe, then, maybe you'd be a good client to work with me, because I can help you get past some of those perfectionist tendencies, get past them and move forward into something different. So let's just talk perfectionism. It's an irrational belief, right? That we, or you or I, right? Our environment has to be perfect. It's striving to be the best, to reach ideal, to never make a mistake. Look, if you have the attitude that you can never make a mistake and you're in business, you're in big trouble. Okay. We all are going to make mistakes in business. Things change, markets change, what people want changes, all these things change. And sometimes we just make mistakes because we're not paying attention to the shifts, right? Like we're just going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. So God bless you. And just know we're going to make mistakes. So having the unrealistic belief that you're never going to make a mistake can be a challenge. So, understand you don't want to get to the point where there's no deviation, there's no mistakes, there's no slip ups, there's no inconsistencies, that everything has to be done at that level of perfection, because you're setting yourself up to fall. And that's not where I want you to be. Nobody wants to fall on their face and know that they can prevent it. Okay. So I want to make sure that I'm clear, I'm not talking about the human being, you as a human being. As human beings, look, we are perfect. I have the belief that we are made in God's image. And no matter what we look like, we were made perfectly for who we are, right? We're not broken, messed up human beings, right? We're whole, powerful, perfect, and complete just as we are. That's not what I'm referring to in this topic. So I just want to be clear. I'm talking about perfectionism with unrealistic expectation of yourself and others, the people that you work with, right? Not about you, the person, because every human being has huge value in life. And, the best that we can see people, in their perfect state as human beings, then the better the relationships are. But when it comes to perfectionism, I'm talking more about the actions, the behaviors, the actions, the mindset that you put on yourself that's unrealistic and doesn't really serve you. Okay. So I hope that you see the distinction there. So, I was at a workshop just last month, and it was for human resources. It was an HR workshop. And the gentleman was talking about, continuous improvement with your employees, how to make sure you have continuous improvement with your employees. And really what he was talking about, which I already knew this topic, but that's not how it was presented in the advertising of it, right? So Kaizen, it's the Japanese word they use for continuous improvement. It's a philosophy that focuses on continuous improvement throughout all aspects of your life. Some of you, there was a movie way back called Gung Ho, and that was about the Kaizen process, right? And so it's a method that, you look at what worked, what didn't work, and, resolve it. So I use that in a simple form with my clients with, what worked this week, what didn't work this week, and how do you want to, move forward? What's next, right? So you have to consistently monitor your results on a regular basis to see where you're at within that. So, when it comes to perfectionism, we're not willing to take a look at what didn't work. We just want to know what worked, and it had to work the way that we wanted it to work. And if it didn't work the way that we wanted it to work, then it's a failure. And my challenge for you today, as I talk about perfectionism, is taking a look at with everything, pardon me, what worked, what didn't work, what next. I know one of my mentors, Sandra Yancey, always says, plan, do, and review. What was your plan? What did you actually do? And now review it so that the next time it's better. And so that's another way of looking at it. So I wanted to create a distinction between there's perfectionism and then there's excellence. Excellence involves enjoying what you're doing, right? You're feeling good about what you're learning. You're feeling good about what you're developing, right? You have confidence in what it is. Perfectionism often has a negative feeling. And about 98% of the time, right? You're finding mistakes no matter how well you're doing. Do you see the difference there? Where excellence you can be striving for. It's something that you know there is an end result and it's going to show across the board, right? And so you just want to, hey, Rose, thanks. I look forward to having you watch the replay. So anyway, just perfectionism. It really, you have to pay attention to getting caught up in that trap. You know, when you're coming from excellence, you're setting goals, you're working hard towards them. You can be satisfied with doing a great job. You're achieving excellence, right? High achievers tend to be pulled towards their goals, right? And that desire to achieve those goals. And they're happy with any steps that they make in the right direction, okay? Perfectionists will often set high expectations. They'll set high goals. Goodness. All right. They'll set high goals. They have high expectations of themselves. They expect nothing less than perfection, right? And anything less than perfection is a failure. Boy, oh boy, I remember early in my business when that's what it felt like. It felt like no matter what I did, pardon me. All right, no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, no matter what it was, I just couldn't be satisfied with the end result. It needed to be better. It needed to be more. I needed to prove something, right? And it just felt quite overwhelming quite a bit. So I get perfectionist tendencies. I've been there. Like I said, I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? Perfectionists tend to get pushed towards the goals, right? And they're trying to reach those goals out of fear of not looking good, or fear that I might let somebody down, or fear of not achieving it, right? And so anything less than perfect, then, you know, having it perfectly met, then the goal is a failure. It leads to not winning. It leads to not winning the approval of other people. It leads to not winning the approval of yourself. You know, mentors, you know, you might look bad in front of a mentor. All of those things go on in a perfectionist's head, right? You see the goal and nothing else. You get caught up in that goal, and you're not enjoying the process. You're not growing, and you're not striving and reaching the goal, right? So let me just share a few signs, because, you know, I don't want these, you know, helpful videos. I don't want them to be, you know, forever long. I want you to be able to watch them, get off, and take it into action. So let's look at some signs of perfectionism. One is the energy and space that somebody's in. Perfectionists are often very tense. They're tedious about things. They're very rigid and pessimistic. So that energy and space, that when you're around a perfectionist, you'll often feel that tense, right? You'll feel that they're kind of rigid. They don't want to hear from you. They don't want to listen to you. And they're not, you know, they're pretty pessimistic, like, yeah, whatever, you know, sure, you're going to do that. Like, yeah, right. Right. So the language from a perfectionist is often, they speak in absolutes. They speak, you know, you must, you should, you're supposed to, you need to, you have to, right? All of these things will come in with a perfectionist language. They have patterns that often are reoccurring. They get into the same cycles, right? And it's self-defeating. It's very high pressure, right? They're vulnerable to depression, right? Because they can't reach those expectations that they're trying really hard to reach, right? They might get writer's block, or they may have social performance anxieties. Look, I dislike, I have to admit, like, I dislike doing videos, and my marketing gal knows that about me, but she's like, Kimberly, do it anyway, right? Because when I look at it, I can sometimes see the imperfections. And then there's other times I'm just like, okay, whatever, right? So I still balance between that, right? It's a performance anxiety. Often perfectionists are very highly critical of themselves and other people. So if you find that you're getting criticized a lot from somebody, maybe they're stepping into their perfectionist tendencies, right? Setting high standards for themselves and for other people, right? They're often very harsh with themselves, and it's not the same level of harshness that they are with others. Sometimes it is, but they're often much harsher on themselves than anybody else. Really, perfectionists are looking to win love. They're looking to get acceptance and have approval versus pleasing others with their best work, right? They're really looking to say, this is my work and I need you to love me, care about me, approve of me, tell me I did it right, right? And it's really a challenge sometimes, because unless somebody gives their approval, then they stay stuck in that same rut over and over and over again. I've been there. And you know what? Here's the thing. I'm talking about these things. We all have perfectionist tendencies. So if you go, oh yeah, I know that perfectionist. Oh, that person's a perfectionist, but not me. I'm going to say, shush. We all have perfectionist tendencies, right? And it's just some of us do it a little bit more intently, right? We do it much more intense than other people. The other thing about perfectionists is they're good at comparing themselves. They compare themselves to other people, right? They hold themselves up against somebody who's like, maybe you're a first year in business and I'm a 30 year in business and you think you should be at the same level that I'm at. It's not realistic, okay? You can't measure yourself against somebody else's yardstick, right? So having higher expectations of themselves versus what others have for them. I once asked my husband, this was years and years ago, but I asked my husband, I said, babe, do you think that I'm high maintenance? Just so you know, sometimes if you ask a spouse that, they're going to go, you're setting me up for failure. So my husband looked at me and he's like, are you really asking me that? And I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. I just want some feedback. And do you consider me as high maintenance? And he said, for myself, no, you're not high maintenance for me. For yourself, absolutely. You have higher standards for yourself than anybody else. And that was an eye-opener for me, right? Is he didn't consider me high maintenance in relationship with me and all of that, but he did consider that I was high maintenance for myself. I was like, whoa, buddy. That was an eye-opener for me, because I had never, like, he had the insight to see that and to share that with me. So, just know that, we can all get stuck in those perfectionist tendencies. We can all have higher expectations than anybody could possibly meet, and especially ourselves, but we're still going to drive that way. So, give yourself some grace, right? The other thing about another characteristics of a perfectionist would be somebody who procrastinates, right? And they're not procrastinating for the sake of procrastination. They're procrastinating for the fear of failure, right? If they don't start, then they can't fail, right? So there might be people in your life that you consider procrastinators, but when they do things really, they do it really great, but it takes them forever to get going, then they might be stuck in some perfectionist tendencies, right? They would rather be called a be called a procrastinator than to be seen as somebody who fails or doesn't know the answer, right? So if you find somebody get caught up in that, like, give them some grace, right? It's a challenge sometimes. So think about yourself. Do you have any of those perfectionist tendencies? Right? If so, which one? Which two? Maybe you got more than one or two, right? Like I said, we all have some perfectionist tendencies, right? And we can also observe them in other people. So, Maya Angelou had a great quote, and it was, when I knew better, I did better. A lot of people don't realize that they're stuck in a perfectionist tendency, right? They don't realize that some people will wear it as a badge of honor. Yeah, I'm a perfectionist. Yeah, I got this. I'm going to do it right. I'm going to make sure that it's done accurately. I'm going to make sure that, right? So they'll get stuck in that. And they're very proud, like a badge of honor. And they're creating way too much stress for themselves. They're putting themselves up for high expectations where they are going to fail sometimes, right? And then that can be a challenge. Okay, so what can we do about it? What are some ways to overcome perfectionism? How about if I talk about those, right? So some of the ways that you can overcome perfectionism, all right? And feel free to like put a shout out, go, yep, that one will help me today, Kimberly. But here's just a few, right? One is first accept yourself as a human being. Okay. You do have flaws, right? And you will make mistakes. And when making those mistakes, you're gonna learn in the process, right? And if you're not making mistakes, then you're not growing. So there's reasonable mistakes to be made. So be okay with making them, right? And, my kids, I remember them growing up, it just popped in my head is, wow, I made a mistake. We used to joke this, have this little joke around the house, man, I made a mistake and I'm still fabulous, right? Like that was one way to help me get over my own perfectionist tendencies, but I didn't want that for my kids, right? So they would make a mistake and they go, oh, I got that wrong and I'm still fabulous, right? And I made a mistake and I'm still fabulous. So we would just play with it so that my kids didn't get caught up in that space. So, play with it for yourself. If you you get caught up in something and you make a mistake and you're still fabulous. So enjoy that, right? So that's one thing, is accept yourself as a human being. So the next one I would say would be forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for making mistakes or perceived failures, right? If you did the best that you could with the information that you had right now, right? And with the circumstances that you have right now, and with everything that's happening in this place and time, then you did the best that you could with all of that information. And then what happens is we know more, and then we go, oh, I could have done that better. Oh, I could have, and then we'll beat ourselves up. So forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for not knowing everything. Forgive yourself for not being perfect as a human being, right? Forgive yourself for not knowing everything in every given moment. We can't. We're not made that way. You're not designed that way. So, the first tip would be, like I said, is to accept yourself as a human being. The second tip is to forgive yourself. And the third tip I'm going to say is have a conversation with your inner critic, right? Self-kindness and self-compassion for yourself is a must, right? And, it's our inner critic is there to protect us, right? It creates this space to say, oh, be careful. I don't want you to get hurt. And so sometimes when you make a mistake or you didn't hit perfection, right? Your inner critic will sit there and go, well, I guess you messed that one up. Oh, you're not as smart as you think you are. Oh, yeah. You're just like what they said. They told you you'd never amount to nothing, right? All these things that go up in our heads, right? The inner critic that's sitting there. Well, it really is trying to protect you. But what happens is we've created it to where now we're like relying on it. And we're not meant to rely on our inner critic. It's there to say, whoa, take a look. It's a little scary. You might need some support. You might want to back up. You might want to not take this risk today, right? But you get to go, I got this. You know what? I'm okay if I'm not perfect in this. I'm okay if I make a mistake. I'm ready. I'm armed with my armor of I'm going to get it done, right? So you can have a self-talk with your inner critic and say, I got this. It's okay. Thank you for your support. I'm moving forward. And that's another way that you can, move forward with perfectionist tendencies, right? Is that inner critic. We got to have more realistic thoughts. We have to more healthy and reasonable thoughts, right? And, shift your mindset. Anything that you do accomplish, as small as it is still worth celebrating. Right. And even if you didn't reach the high mark yet, right, you're just on the path in the journey to make it happen. Right. And just know that when people give you feedback, here's your next tip. Number 4 is when people give you feedback, it's not a personal attack on you. Okay. Criticism doesn't need to be responded to defensively. It doesn't need to be responded to with anger. It doesn't need to be responded to sometimes at all, right? Feedback is just there. It's one person's perspective of what they saw. They didn't see all the stuff that led up to it. They only see the one action. So what you get to do is take a look at that feedback and say, okay, they said that. This is what they saw. Do I need to do anything different? Okay. Did I do the best that I could? How could I do this better in the future? So you look at feedback and use it as a tool instead of using it as something that's going to tear you down. Don't let feedback tear you down. It's one person's perspective. And look, critics are a dime a dozen, right? Keyboard warriors are all over social media, right? In the news, everybody can be a critic, right? No matter what, everybody can be a critic. But instead, if you take what somebody's saying, take a look at it, see if it would serve you to take on what they said, or see if it would serve you to go, nah, you don't have all the information. You don't know the behind the scenes stuff. You don't know all the details. Thank you for your feedback. And I'm just going to move forward. Okay. So just know feedback is just feedback. It's information. You get to decide what you want to do with it. How's that sound? Right. All right. How about setting realistic goals? That's your next step of overcoming perfectionism, is setting realistic goals, right? Goals with, that are SMART goals, for example, right? They're specific, they're measured, they're attainable, they're realistic. They have a time bound on them, right? You have a deadline of when that goal should be accomplished by. Setting those goals, look at it for you. Is it way out of your reach, or can you take it down a notch and get to that goal first and then add that as a secondary goal, right? So I think as a recovering perfectionist myself, right? You have to understand that you have perfectionist tendencies, but you don't have to live as a perfectionist. Set realistic goals. Set goals are going to help you reach normal levels of expectation, right? And then you set the next goal for that next level. And then, because in that process, you're going to get more and more information to be able to make that next goal happen as well. But if you try to do it all at once, it's overwhelming. It gets you into procrastination. Break it down into those chunks, bites, and nibbles, right? And then developing techniques for stopping the inner critic for yourself, right? Thank it, let it know that you're okay, that you are enough, and that you can move forward. Allow those excessive standards that you have, those high walls of meeting those expectations, is knock them down a little bit, right? To the standard of excellence, not perfection, right? And give yourself some grace. Set a timer when you're working. I don't know about you, but here's a great tip that helped me a lot, is if you set a timer while you're working, okay, and it goes off, then you get up and you walk away. Oh, but this thought, one last thought, and then one more thought, and then one more thought, and then one more thought. And you can get caught up in that. And then you're losing relationships, and you can't understand why. I'm just working hard. I don't understand what the problem is. Set a timer, and when it goes off, walk away. We have a tendency to start something as perfectionists, and because it's not meeting our standards, we just keep going. People will call you workaholics. They will call you perfectionists. They will, right? And then you lose sleep, you lose friends, and you lose family time. And that's not what I want for you, right? And find ways to enjoy your success. Enjoy the achievements that you have made, right? It's the little things add up. I've had some clients that I've worked with that are kind of, they're recovering perfectionists now, but when I was working with them, they were much more perfectionists. And I would ask them the question, what are you celebrating this week? Kimberly, I'm not celebrating anything. I've just been working hard. Great. What are you celebrating? Tell me something that was good that happened this week. And I have to get them down to that excellent space where we need to celebrate every single achievement, celebrate every single win, right? I'm not saying you have to boast about it all over Facebook and expect everybody to reply back to you. I'm talking about internal celebration. I'm talking about sharing it with a friend, sharing it with a coach, sharing it with somebody who truly cares and wants to see you excel, right? So find ways to, celebrate without second guessing yourself, right? And then remember, the most important thing is to go in a positive direction, right? Is to go after something positively in the right direction on a regular basis, right? It's not about perfectionism. It's really about how you manage yourself. It's knowing that there are things that I still to this day, I want it to be so accurate. There's a difference between accuracy and perfectionism. Okay. So I look for the facts. I find accuracy, but I also know I'm a human being and I'm going to make mistakes just like you. And so at any given time, just know perfectionist tendencies are just that, perfectionist tendencies. And you don't have to be a perfectionist. Pardon me. You don't have to be a perfectionist. You can just be somebody who has perfectionist tendencies, who might get caught up every now and again, and then you course correct, and then you get back into realistic expectations. So I hope that was helpful for you today. I hope that you can see that perfectionism is most likely going to hold you back. And if you look at something more from a Kaizen view, where it's continuous improvement, what worked, what didn't work, what next, how can I improve it for next time, right? Do the best you can and come from excellence with grace, with forgiveness, letting your inner critic know that you've got this, right? Those are the best parts about becoming a recovering perfectionist. Right. And it's okay. You're going to get caught up every now and then. Don't beat yourself up. You just get back on the path of recovery to say, you know what? I need to go for excellence. I don't have to be perfect. And if somebody's telling you you need to be perfect, call me up. I'll give you some words to help you support them in understanding something different. Well, again, put comments below. Let me know what one thing stuck out for you. If there was one helpful tip for yourself, I would love to hear about it. All right. Have a great day.